Hello, I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV on YouTube with a special Wednesday update on Typhoon Regasa as it moves very close to Hong Kong and is heading towards mainland southern China as we go through the rest of Wednesday night and into Thursday. Let's have a look at the big picture showing the Western Pacific. We've got three typhoons at the moment. One up here to the north near Japan, that is heading away up towards the Aleutian Islands. A newly forming typhoon this morning. I've got more information about that at the end of this broadcast. But this is all where the attention is focused on Typhoon Regasa as it moves very close to Hong Kong this morning. Here's the latest update from the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre. You can see the new typhoon here. Like I say, we'll talk about that at the end of this broadcast, but this is where the focus is on, and you can see the eye of Regasa right here. It's been a very clearly formed eye in the centre of the storm, which means it's a very well organised storm, and that just basically means it's powerful and it is not expected to fall apart anytime soon. Here is the close-up view of the storm as it moves close to Hong Kong this morning. This is about as close as it will get over the next couple of hours this morning while you wake up around the Hong Kong area. But look, the worst of the winds are just south, brushing these southern islands. The eye of the storm very clearly seen still, so the storm has not yet shown any signs of falling apart. Even though it has weakened a little bit, it is still an extremely powerful storm. Here is the tracking. It hasn't moved very much from the last day or two. Moving along here, this is the part where landfall is expected. Whether it makes it exactly along this line or a little further southwards, which will take a bit longer. And it's possible that there may be more than one landfall. Landfall is when the eye of the storm goes over the top of land. So if it brushes some of these islands around to the southwest of Hong Kong, or the mainland, that could make landfall, but it all depends on the exact tracking. Here's a closer view of the same map, but I've highlighted in the white shaded areas, so everything within this area, that is the most damaging portion of the storm. So it is good to see Hong Kong on the outer edges of it. Doesn't mean that you're not going to be hit by very damaging winds this morning and very heavy rain, but the very worst of this storm is just to the south of Hong Kong City and the island, and tracking obviously towards southern China. So here is the eye of the storm this morning on the infrared satellite imagery, very close to Hong Kong. But as you can see, it's not coming in, it is moving just to the south of you. So that is good news. It's not so good news though for further to the southwest, where the storm is more likely to be intense. Even Macau is likely to be seeing stronger winds than Hong Kong itself. So here is the latest on it. Still has a category 4 hurricane equivalency. I think yesterday I accidentally said typhoon. I meant hurricane equivalent. And this is as we recorded it this morning, Wednesday morning. So the peak winds 213 kilometers an hour, down a little bit from where it was yesterday. But remember, those are sustained winds. So this is, whether it's 213 or 230, you wouldn't notice the difference if you're on the ground in that. Peak gusts still very intense, 250 kilometers an hour. The maximum wave height hasn't moved in the last 3 days, still 14 meters. That's right around the center of the storm. And the tracking direction hasn't moved much. It's maybe tilting a little bit more northwest now at 20 kilometers an hour. So here are the wave heights at the most extreme for the Hong Kong area. Now this is not localized maps, so keep up to date with your local authorities for the most detailed information. But what you see here, some very large waves on the outer edges of Hong Kong. You're talking about 5 to 6 meter waves, and that's on top of your normal high tides. And there will be a storm surge closer down towards the center of the storm, more for the southern islands, and as I say, going to the southwest of Hong Kong. So let's have a look at the wind maps now, starting with 7 o'clock this morning, Hong Kong time. The worst of the winds in the pink shading around the outer edges of the center of the storm. So you can see what I mean. Very close to Hong Kong, but the absolute worst of the winds, the most catastrophic part of it, is south of you at this stage and is expected to remain that way. This is 1 hour later, so 8 o'clock in the morning this morning. I mentioned yesterday the worst of the winds on the key here are in the white shading. So you can see this white shading surrounding the purple part of it around the center of the storm. That white shading yesterday was more around Hong Kong and Macau. Today, it's further south. That is very good news. That is exactly what you want to be seeing over the next sort of few hours. Most of that severe weather, the worst of it is just south of Hong Kong, but not to minimize the fact that this area all along the more populated areas is still gusting well over 120 kilometres an hour. There may be gusts going over 150. Keep up to date with the local Hong Kong Observatory for more details. Now, as we move through the morning, 11 o'clock this morning, it is now starting to move away from Hong Kong. There is the good news. Behind it, all that hot, humid air is coming through, but the worst of the winds are moving further westwards. And so now we start to see other parts of mainland China more at risk from this storm. And we jump along further here, 2 o'clock this afternoon, Hong Kong time. And now you're seeing some really damaging winds in that white shading, brushing populated areas further southwest of Macau. Now this next map doesn't have the colouring on it because the colouring blocks the map. And I wanted to show you the map, but everywhere in this map has the chance of damaging winds as we go through 5 o'clock later today. So this is a large area with damaging winds coming through. The centre of the storm, 949 hectopascals. That has dropped a little bit from where it is at the moment. And so that means that the storm is not necessarily going to weaken despite it interacting with the land. But while the centre of the storm remains over the sea, over the ocean, that's where all the energy comes from. So it stays being fueled as it moves along. Back to the normal wind maps, moving closer here. You see what I mean? You know, the centre of this storm, if it's slightly northwards, it's made landfall already and it starts to weaken. If it stays just slightly south of the coastline, it stays powered up and energized as it tracks along. Now this next map, again, everything in here has wind damage potential, but I've stripped the color away so you can see all the place names on it. No matter what happens with this storm, you know, if it moves slightly northwards or southwards, either way, it will be moving over land by tonight. And so as we get close to midnight, that storm is making landfall. If it hasn't made landfall already, it will be doing it as it runs into the peninsula here. So expect damaging winds, but as it moves in overnight tonight, it will start to weaken. So we jump ahead, to 11 o'clock Thursday morning local time, and now you're seeing that storm coming into Vietnam with damaging winds really shrinking. The only damaging area in the pink-purple shading here, sort of only 90, maybe to 120 kilometres an hour. Now I shouldn't say only because that is still very serious, but compared to where it is at the moment, significantly weaker, but severe weather risks exist here in China and Vietnam as we go through Thursday. Let's just animate that for you to make sense of everything as we go through the next couple of days, brushing past Hong Kong today, brushing past Macau, then it moves more into mainland China, and that's what is going to happen tonight when it makes landfall, or later today, depending on, as I say before, exactly where it tracks, and then it moves through as we go through the later part of Thursday, falling apart as it comes into Vietnam. Falling apart from a wind point of view, not necessarily a rain point of view. So let's now go to the rain maps, going back to 8 o'clock this morning. So this is where we expect the storm to be at its closest to the major metropolitan area of Hong Kong, 950 hectopascals, the central air pressure. No great change as we jump forward to 5 o'clock, although the rain is now easing around Hong Kong. So that is the good news. The worst of the rain is actually in the southwest quadrant, this corner here of the storm. So that is offshore. So for the most part, the worst of the rain and the worst of the wind is offshore. But as we move through here to around about the sunset period, or coming towards sunset, that's when the most damaging portion of the winds and very heavy rain is brushing the southern coastline. Now we jump forward to 11 o'clock this evening. This is where we expect it to be making landfall, if it hasn't already. This is when it will be doing it. So it moves in, central air pressure, a little hard to read, but in the 960 hectopascal or millibar range. That means it's still a deep and serious storm. And as we jump forward even further, 5 o'clock tomorrow, Thursday, now you've got low pressure very close to the capital of Vietnam, and it is not so much of a wind event, although there is still the risk of damaging winds, but now it turns into a rain event for Vietnam, showers continuing further back behind it all. So let's animate the rain map for you to see how it's going to build up. Like I say, the worst of the rain is actually just south of China and Hong Kong, but you are seeing some very heavy totals around the China mainland and Hong Kong itself. Some of these rainfall totals are up to 200 millimeters in some locations, and again, you see that happening around Vietnam and on the back edge of Taiwan, on the eastern side, on the back edge of Regasa, there is a very humid, wet, southeasterly flow coming through there, driving in more rain. Okay, the next storm system. So this is the one here, focused next to the Philippines. Let me animate this for you. It goes through till Monday of next week. Coming through here, very close to Manila, pretty much a rain event. There might be some damaging wind. It is moving through quite quickly. That is the good news. But it may become more serious for Hainan and going into Vietnam as we go into the start of next week. So not locked in all the details on that one just yet, but we are monitoring it. So don't forget, for more information, follow the Hong Kong Observatory and other Chinese authorities to get your local weather information and all the weather warnings as we go through the next couple of days. And also, I highly recommend the West Pacific weather here on YouTube. Robert does a great job. He's been around quite a while and longer than I have been doing these Western Pacific videos. So please do check out his site as well on YouTube. That is all from me for today. I'll be back again tomorrow, Thursday. We'll have another update again as we track the tropical trouble around the Western Pacific.